In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, this is teacher Nariman Al-Faddawi from King Abdulaziz Model Schools. I'm going to present this lesson from Flying High 5. The title of Unit 5 is History's Mysteries. Lesson 4 is Listening. I hope you enjoy it. Titanic is a historical and mysterious event. The massive ship sailed and carried many passengers and crews. The objectives of Lesson 4: we are going to recognize the meaning of new words, listen to the conversation about Titanic, answer the comprehension questions after listening, infer the causes of Titanic disaster. Titanic is a tragedy. It hit the iceberg and sank during its voyage. Look at the picture. They are the lifeboats from the Titanic. The new vocabulary: lifeboat. It is a small boat that is kept on a ship for emergencies. Sink, to disappear under the surface of water. Iceberg, a very large piece of ice floating in the water with only a small amount of it above the surface of the water. Read the following questions carefully. Then listen to a conversation between a sister and brother talking about Titanic to find the answers. Number 1. How many people were traveling on the Titanic when it sank? Number 2. How many lifeboats were there? Number 3. Who decided the number of lifeboats? Number 4. What was the most important factor for deciding the number of lifeboats? Number 5. Why was the Titanic traveling so fast when it hit the iceberg? Now, we are going to listen to the conversation about the Titanic.
Wow! I've just been reading this article about the Titanic. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't know before.
Like what?
Well, about the lifeboats. Look, there were about 2,200 people on board the ship. And how many lifeboats were there? Only 20. Even if every lifeboat had been full, more than 1,000 people would have stayed on the ship.
So, there weren't enough lifeboats?
No, there were 20, but they needed at least 40.
So why weren't there enough?
The people who designed the ship told the director of the company that there weren't enough. But the director, Ismay his name was, this Ismay said there could only be 20.
But why?
Because he said it would look ugly having so many lifeboats on the deck. He wanted the ship to look nice. That was the most important thing for him. And of course he said they weren't necessary because it was impossible for the Titanic to sink.
Yeah, well, we all know he was wrong there.
The thing is, they say that if Ismay had allowed more lifeboats, a lot more people would have survived. But do you know the worst thing?
What?
Ismay was actually a passenger on the Titanic, and he was one of the people who got a place in a lifeboat.
But I thought it was women and children first.
Yes, exactly. He said that he only got in the lifeboat because there were no more women or children. He said there was nobody else waiting.
Well, if that's true, then I can understand it. I would have done the same if I'd been in his place.
Yeah, maybe, But other people say that if it had been their decision to limit the number of lifeboats, they would have stayed on the ship. And there was another thing about this Ismay too. A lot of people say that it was his decision to go so fast, not the captain's. The ship went at full speed, even though they knew that there was the possibility of icebergs in the area. If the ship hadn't been going so fast, the iceberg wouldn't have caused so much damage. But Ismay really wanted to arrive on time in New York, because it would have been great publicity for the Titanic.
This Ismay was quite a character.
Well, they say that later he did try to get as much money as possible for the families of the victims. He wanted to help them. So I suppose he wasn't all bad.
Question number 1. How many people were traveling on the Titanic when it sank? There were 2,200 people on the board of the ship. How many lifeboats were there? There were only 20 lifeboats. Who decided the number of lifeboats? The ship's director, Ismay, decided the number of lifeboats. What was the most important factor for deciding the number of lifeboats? The most important factor for Ismay was that the ship looked nice. Why was the Titanic traveling so fast when it hit the iceberg? Ismay wanted the Titanic to go fast in order to reach New York on time and create good publicity for the ship. Listen again and decide, are these sentences true or false? Correct the false sentences. Number 1. They needed at least 30 lifeboats on the Titanic. False. Ismay died when the Titanic sank. False. They say it was Ismay's decision to sail so as fast as possible. True. They didn't know there were icebergs in the area where they were sailing. False. There was nothing nice to say about Ismay. False. And the correct answers: they needed at least 40 lifeboats. Ismay got on one of the lifeboats and was saved. They knew there could be icebergs in the area. Ismay later tried to collect money for the victims' families, so there is something nice to say about him. What about you? At the time, many people thought it was Ismay's duty to stay on the Titanic to the very end. What do you think? Give reasons. I think he did the right thing to get on a lifeboat. He made sure that all the women and children were on lifeboats first, and it was important for him to live and explain what had happened. The causes of the Titanic disaster is the decisions of the director of the company, Ismay. Number 1, all the people who designed the ship told him that there weren't enough lifeboats. He said it would look ugly having so many lifeboats on the deck. Number 2, his decision to go fast, not the captain's, The ship went at full speed, even though they knew there was possibility of icebergs in the area. Number 3, the director wanted to arrive on time in New York because it would have been great publicity for the Titanic. The value: life is simple. Make good decisions and good things happen. Make bad decisions and bad things happen. The outcomes of lesson 4: we already recognized the meaning of the new words. We have listened to the conversation about Titanic, and also we answered the comprehension questions after listening, and we inferred the cause of the Titanic disaster. Thank you, and this lesson is presented by teacher Nariman Al-Faddawi.